Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure. Yep, we have some participants coming in. Great to see people coming in. Welcome, everyone. We're just going to give this a couple of minutes for everyone to log in, and then we can get started. So just a couple more minutes, and we'll begin the webinar. And it looks like people continue to log on. So at 101, maybe we'll give it to 103 before we actually launch into the content of the webinar. Just to give everyone a fair shot at joining us. Give it about one more minute. I think we have just over 20 attendees so far. Great, people continue to join us. Okay, so we don't take too much time. Let me see. I believe that everyone's microphones were on mute as they came in. I see a couple of questions in the chat, so you should be okay. I don't hear any noises that are going to interrupt us. So it's 1:03. I think we should jump right in so that we don't spend too much time and we all have enough time to listen to our friends from Wix. My name is Mike Henniger. I'm the Director of Recruitment and Marketing at EduNova. Welcome today to our session on personal branding and building a personal brand using the Wix website. I'd like to introduce my colleagues from Wix, Joelle Burbano, and Joelle is the Academic Partnerships Manager at Wix, and we're extremely lucky to have Wix with us today to offer this great webinar. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Joelle to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be learning today and all kinds of things about Wix. So Joelle, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. So hi, everyone. My name is Joelle. I am part of Wix's academic partnership team. Michael did a great intro about me, so you know a little bit about what I do. Again, for today, we're really going to try to keep this as informal as possible. So there is a Q&A. So if you do have any questions throughout, please feel free to write them in and Michael will let me know and I'll take a look as well. I also might be asking a few questions throughout the workshop. So if you want to use the chat box as well, you can feel free to use it. Okay, so let's just go ahead and share my screen. We'll be going over what we'll be covering today. Okay, so for today's workshop, we'll be covering why you need an online presence. So as you think about building your personal brand, why is it important to have an online presence in the first place? We'll also dive a little bit more into the planning process, how to get your website started, how to actually create a specific sitemap specific to your portfolio. And then, of course, we'll dive into the design process, how to actually use Wix, many of our different templates and drag and drop features. And then lastly, of course, we'll go over how to actually manage your website on the back end of Wix. Okay. So I always like to start with a question for students. Many of you are here today to learn a little bit about personal branding, but why do you think it's important to have a website in the first place? You can feel free to write into the chat box. Any initial thoughts? Okay, so Nancy mentions it serves as an online record of your work. Absolutely. So when you think about your website, think about this as an opportunity to showcase some of your best work, maybe past projects that you started off with when you entered into your college career. And then also as well, if you've been in internships, this is a great place to actually home all of those specific works. Francis also mentions to showcase your personal brand. Again, many of you have an opportunity to showcase who you are through your portfolio websites. Outside of you being students, you might have volunteer experiences that you want to talk about. Maybe you want to create a blog. So there's lots of different approaches that you could take when you think about your personal brands. Shirag also mentions helps to show portfolio projects, testimonials to name a few, and an online resume. So that's a great point, testimonials. Have you worked with somebody that has great things to say about the work that you've done through an internship or even through volunteer work? Definitely something nice to add as a great way to showcase who you are through your portfolio website. I also see a few comments in the Q&A. Right now, I can't actually take a look at it and open it up. But if Michael can let me know what's going on there, I'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely. So I can give you a couple of things. Segnik says for marketing. Chris says for things like advertising. We've got to reach a potential audience, especially for services and products. And another person saying, Nicole saying similar to offer access to your service or product.
Absolutely. So thank you, Michael, for sharing that. So all of you make some great points. I always like to remind students this works to kind of be a competitive advantage. Okay, this gives you an opportunity to connect with potential customers if you're thinking about showcasing a service. But more importantly, if you're someone that wants to connect with a recruiter or hiring manager, this is another pipeline for you to be able to connect with them. Okay, so like you all mentioned, of course, the first and most important reason is just to own your online content. So with social media, there is tons of content that's out there about you that you're posting, that your friends are posting, and you want to be able to own that online presence. I always remind students, take some time to Google yourself. Are you happy with what you see when you put your name through the Google search engine? Do you want to actually change how that looks, right? So again, this is really important because your website, it serves to be that central hub of all of your best content, best images, and best ways for people to contact you. Additionally, your website's SEO will also be important. SEO just stands for search engine optimization. Essentially, this is how Google will discover you. So again, we're going to dive into some tools a little bit later on that you could use when you think about, setting up your SEO and your discoverability. Okay. Of course, many of you had mentioned this, defining a personal brand and of course, telling your story. Like I mentioned earlier, there are other sides to you outside of just being a student. This gives you an opportunity to share that. Of course, to showcase your best work to employers, clients, and customers, even specific services or products. And then, of course, enable people to contact you about your work. So with your website, you're now no longer just local. You're now a global presence. So people from all throughout the world can reach out to you to hire you, to download your resume, or even to learn more about you. Of course, I always remind students as well, this is a great way to consolidate everything into a central hub. That includes your professional social media links. So oftentimes students have a professional LinkedIn, a professional Instagram or Twitter. This is a great way to consolidate it into one home. And additionally, maybe gather more potential followers or connections with potential recruiters as well. And then of course, this again will set you apart from those that don't have a website. This is a competitive advantage. More because, again, you're showcasing a skill set of building websites. And additionally, this allows you to be able to showcase who you are, okay? So some common misconceptions we typically hear from students is that it's expensive, it's time consuming, I don't have the right skills to get started. But as an overview, Wix is a great platform that you can use. Everything is drag and drop. one of the largest website building platforms out there, really easy and intuitive. Again, it's really for those that are novices and even for those that are more advanced. So if you are a student that has a background in computer science, you can absolutely code directly into your website as well. Okay, so lots of different options to explore. All right, so now that I've given you an overview of Wix, I want to bring this to life for all of you. So this is Ivy Chen's portfolio. Okay, and she is a fashion designer and illustrator. And what I'm actually going to do right now is actually scroll through her website with all of you. So as you can see, as we're scrolling through Ivy's website here, a couple changes are happening. She's really integrating both of her passions here on the right-hand side on fashion and on the left in illustration. And as you scroll, you can of course see all of these different changes happening. Kind of takes your thinking outside of a typical website where you might have top navigation with inner pages. You actually have this nice menu that when you click, opens up as a light box. And then here takes you into her categorized work in fashion, illustration. And if you want to learn more about Ivy, you can click and actually learn more about her. Okay, so one thing that's cool about this site is there was no coding needed. Okay, she actually used a drag and drop feature called strips. So if this is something you're interested in maybe adding to your own portfolio site, definitely let me know in the chat box. I'd be happy to cover how Ivy did this. Okay. All right, so again, just note that we will be going over other portfolio examples, but before we do that, I want to dive a little bit into the planning process. What do you actually need to get your portfolio website started? So before actually getting your site started, of course, it's important just to define your goals. So depending on the type of website that you're building, you might want to be building your portfolio for a specific job. Maybe you might want to actually use it as a place to showcase a blog or your writing. It's really important to have that specific goal in mind because, again, this will dictate the pages, elements, and even the tools that you decide to add onto your website. So again, have that specific goal in mind so that you can dictate what to actually include onto your site. Of course, once you define your goals, you must gather your content. So this here is probably one of the most time-consuming processes. Writing about yourself might take more time than you realize. Even finding high-quality images and descriptions of your best work will take some time to put together, okay? So I always remind students, take some time to gather that content because, again, it'll be much easier for you to build your website later on. Now, here on the right-hand side, we see here Akira's portfolio. So she's more in visual and web design. But I think one thing that she does very well is actually showcase some of her work with nice high-quality images on her homepage. Of course, an overview about what the project is about. And then lastly, of course, the title and the skill set that she's showcasing. So again, have your content ready made because this will be much easier for you to compile and put together when you start building out your website. So once you've gathered your content, it's really important to organize this. So here we have a sitemap, this diagram here. It's just a list of pages and tools that you might want to include onto your site. So to get your portfolio website started, all you simply need is a home page, an about page, a projects page, and a contact page. That's all you need to get your website started. Of course, oftentimes I hear students tell me, oh, I want to add or showcase my writing. You can, of course, add additional pages like a blog, or let's say you're a photographer and you're passionate about that as well. You can, of course, add your photography page as well. So there's lots of different options, of course, with your portfolio. But to get it started, all you need is a home, about, projects, or contact page or section. And then lastly, of course, really important to think about the specific style of your portfolio websites. When you think about your style, I always remind students, think about the themes in the work that you're trying to enter into. An accountant's portfolio might look very different from a graphic designer's portfolio. So again, when you're thinking about your style, your brand, really be mindful of the industry you're entering into. Of course, I always remind students, take some time to take a look at different color palettes, different fonts. What are the different colors, fonts, and images that could best showcase your personality and who you are? Of course, on the right-hand side, we have here Ji-Koon's portfolio. And one thing that I find interesting about her site is she really keeps the design consistent. So very important when you're designing your portfolio sites to keep the colors consistent throughout. She has this nice pastel pink in the background, these nice blues to showcase her text here. And of course, even her little transparent video. And then of course, a highlight yellow to showcase the actual skill sets she wants to show to a potential recruiter or hiring manager. So again, really up to you on the design you want to go for, but definitely a great example to refer to. So a couple of things to just consider on your website. The first is to have a clear message. So we define this as a CTA or a call to action. The simplest definition of a CTA is if you enter into a portfolio website, it's as simple as having a button that says, download my resume, contact me, learn more about my work. These are all actionable items that your visitor can take when they enter into your site. You don't want them to have a hard time figuring out what specific action you want them to take. Of course, after you have that clear message dictated on your website, really important to have quality content. I always remind students, take time to proofread all of your work, your resumes, any writing or copy you want to put on your site. You want to make sure it's high quality. And then of course, when you're thinking about images, make sure that you're uploading all of your images direct to your site to just ensure that it is high quality. I recommend not to download from social media and re-upload to your site, okay? And then lastly, of course, great design. So with Wix, we have hundreds of designer-made templates that you could pick and choose from. So lots of different options if you aren't someone as design savvy. And then, of course, if you are someone in the design field, you can, of course, start with a blank template as well. So lots of different options to explore when you're thinking about building your portfolio. Okay. All right. So I'm going to actually take you through a couple portfolios, but before we do that, does anybody have any questions? You can feel free to write them into the Q&A at this time. I know I'm going through a lot of content quick, so if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so it seems like there aren't any questions. All right, cool. So Lauren says, great so far. Okay, awesome. Thanks for the feedback. All right, cool. So just keep in mind the Q&A is there. So if any questions do come up, definitely let me know in the Q&A. And then of course, at the end of this session, I'd be happy to cover and answer any questions you all may have. Okay. All right. So we're going to be taking a look at a few portfolios right now. One that I wanted to actually showcase is Sammy's portfolio. So Sammy, she is a freelance journalist from Yale University. Couple of things to just note about her site. One thing that I love is when you enter in, if I was like a recruiter, the first thing I could see is an overview about Sammy's background, what she does, and then some of the different work that she's doing currently. And then, of course, when you dive right into her portfolio, you have this nice gallery with high quality images showcasing all of the different articles that she's written. Of course, if I click, okay, it takes you direct to her writing. She has this high quality image here to showcase what her writing is all about with a nice scroll effect. And then, of course, the written article itself with some high quality videos here. And you can, of course, read what this article is all about. Now, of course, Sammy is also published. So one thing that she keeps in mind is to have a clear CTA or call to action through this read more button. So when I click here, I can now actually dive in direct to where her article actually is through the politics. So again, really, really nice use of her site. She not only uses it for her portfolio, but she also directs the visitor to her where her actual writing is. So again, a great, great website overall. And then of course, to the top right, she has her about and contact page. Let's take a look through her about page here. You have this nice high quality image of Sammy. And of course, now you could dive into some of her background here and her different experiences. Now, of course, if you don't have this many experiences, you can also add in their volunteer experience as well. If you worked a specific job, you can also put that in there as well. Also, oftentimes I see students as well put in awards or certifications. So lots of different approaches to take to this, but definitely a great point of reference when you think about writing your about page. Okay. So that's Sammy's portfolio here. So I'm going to take us through one more portfolio. Okay. And this is Jung's portfolio. Jung is more in UX UI design. But a couple of things that I just want to call out in terms of his design is, as you can see, when we dive in, you have this nice video background. Keep in mind that video background is trending in graphic design. So it's a nice way to add some movement to your site. You can, of course, see here as well, you have different ways to say hello in different languages. So he actually uses an interactive slideshow, which he dragged and dropped right in, okay? And then, of course, a quick intro about who he is. When you click this arrow here, it takes you right down to his work. You have this nice gallery here to showcase some of his different work, okay? And then when you click this button, you can also see some of his different fun work too. Okay, so I'm going to actually take us through his project page just so you can see an example. So here, when I'm hovering over, you can see the title of the project and also the skill sets he wants to showcase. So let's just click this. So as you can see, we're now looking at Jung's project here, Karini. One thing to note is when you think about writing your project's pages, a couple of things that are important to include is, of course, the title, an overview about what the project is all about. And then, of course, if you're working in a team or you had a specific role, definitely important to add alongside of that, the clients and time frame. Okay. Now, sometimes you might not be working with a client. This might be a class project. You can definitely note that as well. Okay. And then, of course, at the top here, you have what the final product looks like. Okay. So I always remind students, of course, it's very important to have an overview and the final product at the top. Now, recruiters have maybe very little time to go through your entire portfolio. But if they do have additional time, I think Jung did a really excellent job as you scroll here, where you can see what it actually looked like before. And then, of course, some of the different problems, key insights, and even some of the research that he did to get to that final result. So I always recommend to students, of course, it's important to add the overview, but also important to also showcase the process. So here you can see some of the different concept sketches that Jung created and some of his different visual research as well. So definitely a really well-structured page for his project, but definitely something as well that's good to add when you're thinking about definitely showcasing everything that you did for a specific piece of work, okay? And then, of course, to the right-hand side, when you click his CV, of course, you can now go ahead and download his CV here. Okay, so again, lots of different options to explore when thinking about structuring each of your pages, but definitely a great website to refer to if you're thinking about showcasing your projects similarly. Okay. All right, so I do have a few more examples here. You could definitely take a look on your own. I also have some skip slides as well. But I do want to go over a couple do's and don'ts before we dive into the editor, just so that you all know. So couple do's. One big do is just to remember to design your site for mobile. Again, everyone's on their mobile phone these days, so you want to make sure that your site looks good for the mobile view. And I'll dive into that in a couple of minutes and walk you through that process. And then, of course, one don't is you do not need to post every single project you've ever done. I always like to remind students, quality versus quantity. Think about high quality projects that could best showcase the skill set or the industry you're trying to enter into. So take a look at those internship job descriptions as well, and take a look and see what projects could best showcase that through your portfolio. Okay. All right, so let's get to designing your website with Wix. We're going to dive into Wix in a couple minutes. I see a few comments in the chat box. And again, as clarification, this presentation will be shared with all of the attendees as well. So just keep in mind, you will have the presentation and the Zoom recording. Okay. I also see a few comments in the Q&A, which I'm going to open up in a minute by going first here. So Sarah has mentioned, and I'm going to just go to wix.com really quickly. Okay, so you can feel free to go to wix.com and follow along while we answer these questions. All right, so Sarah has mentioned how regularly should one update their website? That's a great question. So Sarah, I think it really depends on, again, your goal for the website. So if you are someone that's planning on using your website for a blog, obviously you want to keep updating your blog every week. But if you're someone using it for a portfolio, what I typically recommend is if there's a big project that you worked on that's worth showcasing for the semester, I definitely recommend to keep updating that. I always recommend 6 months is ideal to a year. For me, for example, for my own portfolio, I redesigned it 1 year later, right? So I try to change it up here and there. And keep in mind too, that it's not something that is specific. You don't need to have like a specific timeline for all of those things. You could change things up here and there. And when I dive into the editor, I'll show you where you could like save your site and then of course, publish it to go live if you want it to go live. So you can really play around with the design throughout. You don't have like a specific set timeline for that. Okay. Now, Sagnik asks, how do websites which offer services and websites which offer products differ from each other? That's a great point. So Sagnik, let's say, and this is really going to vary, and I'm going to go through this through our Wix App Market. There are two different options. We have Wix Bookings and we also have Wix Stores. Wix Stores is probably the best option if you're someone trying to sell a specific product. Maybe you're trying to sell soy candles, for examples. Now, if you want to provide a service, maybe soy candle classes, how to create them, that would be a service instead. So you could definitely add both to your website, but I typically recommend, depending on your goal for your site, to pick and choose one over the other. But again, it's still up to you at the end of the day. Okay. But that's really the main differences. And I'll go over those applications a little bit later. And then an anonymous attendee had mentioned, do you think it would be a little too late to start building your website after graduation? No, I don't think it's a little too late. I definitely recommend, this is like actually a good time to do that with the extra addition, like the extra time that you have. Definitely do it as soon as you can, because this is really a great way to boost up your resume and also allow you to showcase your projects a little bit more than a resume would allow you to showcase. So definitely recommend get started as soon as you can. And I'm glad that you're here today so you can kind of learn about how to get yourself started with that. Okay. All right. Also, PS, I also started my portfolio way after graduation. So it's never too late to start. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go to wix.com. You can all feel free to follow along if you would like. All right. Again, if there are any questions throughout, definitely put them into the Q&A. I will do my best to answer them again at the end of this workshop. Okay. So if you do have a Wix account, you can hit sign in here to the top right, or you can hit get started here if you're getting started for the first time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit this blue button. And I'm going to go ahead and actually create an account with all of you. Okay, just to walk you through a few questions that will come up when you create an account for the first time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually create that. Let's just hit sign up. So now Wix will actually ask you a series of questions. I'm going to hit get started here. They'll ask me, what kind of website are you creating? So for many of you, you'll probably be choosing portfolio. So I'll actually enter in portfolio here. And then they'll ask me, what are your goals for this website? So again, many of you, like I said, if you started the planning process, really important to think about that. I'm going to actually just toggle any of these off for now and just click next. Okay. And then of course, they'll say, what would you like on your website? So like I mentioned, we do have tons of applications, online stores, bookings. This will allow you to add them directly into any of the templates that you choose. I will toggle it off for now because I'll be walking you through that process in a couple minutes. So let's hit next here. Then they'll ask me, have you created a website before? I'll say this is my first time. Now, this is really, really important. You will have two different options that you can choose from. The first, of course, on the left-hand side is Wix ADI. Wix ADI just stands for Artificial Design Intelligence. When you click Start Now, Wix will ask you a series of questions and create a well-designed website for you. Again, this is a cool option to explore later on. However, choosing a template will actually give you more customizable options. So I always recommend to students definitely choose a template. So let's choose a template here. All right, so because I chose portfolio as my category of the type of site I'm building, as you can see, we are currently in the portfolio website templates page. Okay, so as you can see, lots of different templates here. If you notice, this is actually the template that Sammy Westfall used for her own portfolio. Okay, and she of course redesigned it a bit. You can see here as well, lots of different templates you can pick and choose from. So I do recommend to go through them. And of course, just note that you can customize them to your liking, which we'll go over in a couple minutes. To the top right, you can also search templates. So let's say you're someone that is more of a blogger and you want to search blog here. Now you have all these templates here with built-in blogs that you can easily customize and change around as well. Okay, so again, lots of options to explore. And below it, we have our blank templates. So if you are someone that has a design in mind, you know what you want your website to look like, we do have blank templates to start from scratch. And of course, layouts or wireframes to actually showcase your portfolios. Okay, so definitely take a look through that if you already have a design in mind. You of course have different categories here. For today, I'm taking us to the music category, just to use a template a little bit easier to work with. And of course, if I'm ready to go and I want to view my template, I can click view here and choose a view full demo. Now I can see the website live. Okay, I can move from page to page, see what I like, see what I don't like. And of course, to the top left here, I have this mobile icon that will allow me to see the site on the mobile view. So if I click this, okay, I can now see the site on a mobile phone. Okay, so if I'm ready to go, I want to start customizing my site. To the top right, I can hit edit this site, or on the templates page, I can hover over and click edit. And this takes me direct to the Wix editor. All right, so as this is loading and you all see the editor, I'm going to just exit our toolbar here. Just note that I will be going through a lot of the basics of Wix and how to actually use the platform when you play around with your own portfolios. So if there are any specific features that you're thinking of adding, definitely let me know in the chat box. I'm always happy to cover like where you could find those specific tools when you're thinking about like customizing your own portfolios. Okay, so let me know in the chat box if there's anything you want to see specifically, and I'll do my best to cover it. All right, so as you can see, I'm clicking this image here. We're looking at our canvas. And everything here is drag and drop. I can resize my image here very easily. I can move my text around. Okay. Of course, I can go ahead and see when I click my image, this floating menu will appear. This allows me to customize my image very easily. I can crop my image to a specific shape if I wanted to. Okay, so I can crop that to a circle. I could add a filter similar to Instagram. So again, lots of options to explore here in terms of customization on your floating menu. I can, of course, delete anything I don't want by hitting the backspace button. Okay, and then, of course, bring it back with my two best friends, my undo button and my redo button, if I want to bring anything back or take it away. Now, as you can see, there are these dashed lines, which I'm going to just go over very quickly. As you can see at the top, we have this horizontal dashed line, just referred to as the header, and a horizontal dashed line below referred to as the footer. Just keep in mind that anything that you put in your header and your footer will move with you from page to page. Okay, so just keep those things in mind. Okay. We also have here this vertical grid line. Of course, this just represents different screen sizes and resolutions, such as your mobile phone or iPad. So I always remind students to keep your most important information within these grid lines here. Okay, so again, just note these are your grid lines. Okay, definitely good points of references when you're adding certain elements in. At the top here, we also have dev mode. So if you are someone that knows how to code, you can definitely turn this on, code with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, if that's something you'd like to do. And below it, we do have our two different icons. Excuse me. Just give that a here. So here we have our desktop editor and we have our mobile editor. So I'm going to switch really quickly to our mobile editor. Now, keep in mind here in your mobile editor, any changes that you make here will not reflect your desktop. Okay, so I always remind students, let's say if I decided to delete this text here, note that it will no longer be here on mobile, but it will still remain on desktop. So again, really good practice. Make sure you finish customizing your site first on desktop. Once the design is good to go, you've received some feedback, definitely toggle over, switch to mobile and start customizing. Okay. To the top right, you can save your site from time to time. This will take you to your free Wix domain. I'll go over free versus premium at the end of this workshop. Okay, so just saving that. So at any point, I can save my designs here. I can preview my site if I want to preview it and see how it looks. And then, of course, to the top right, if I'm ready for this website to go live, I want everyone to see it. I can hit this blue button and now go ahead and publish. Okay, so pretty straightforward. All right, so that's just some of our basics here. I see a few comments in the chat box, so let me just take a look. So Ada, is it possible to synchronize Wix and Squarespace? So Wix and Squarespace is a different product from ours, so not really possible. Are you trying to say, can I transfer my site from Squarespace to Wix, or just as clarification, right? So I'll give you a couple minutes to just go ahead and add that. I see also a comment in the Q&A. I'll take a look in a couple minutes, all right? On the left-hand side, I'm gonna just go over our different panels here. The first panel is our pages panel. Here I can move from page to page. All right. Note that this does reflect our horizontal menu here as well. So if I wanted to go ahead and delete this EPK page, I can of course click this triple dot icon, hit delete. And now, as you can see, EPK no longer remains. Okay. Also note as well that you can rename any of your pages. So let's say I want to rename my pages here to projects. Okay, I just want to rename that. Maybe I want to showcase some of my work in graphic design. Okay, and maybe also in illustration as well. So these are my two different types of projects. Now, I always tell students to think about user behavior, user experience. You want it to be very easy to navigate your different work here. Okay, so one way to actually categorize your work nicely is through submenus. And that just means that when I hover over projects, graphic design and illustration appears below it. So to set that up, you can go here to manage menu. As you can see, all of your different menu items are here. You can move them around to change where they're located. And then here in the triple dot icon, you have an option here that says move under projects. I'll click that once. As you can see, graphic design is no longer displayed, and I'll do it again one more time. And then of course, now illustration is no longer displayed. So let's see what happens here. Of course, now you can see that you now have your work nicely categorized. So again, students often ask, why is it important? You want recruiters to be able to see what specific projects they want to look at. So again, think about navigation experience when you're thinking about setting up your menus and pages, okay? Of course, in your pages panel, you can of course add additional pages too. So just note that that's another option too. So moving along here, we have our page background option. This is where you can change your background by color, okay? You also have image as well. So this will take you to your media manager where you can upload media from your computer or any of these third-party sites here on the left-hand side. Okay, so just note that that's an option. You also have here media from Wix. So oftentimes I hear from students, I'm not in an image heavy field, I'm in business or I'm in a specific field where I don't have that many images to showcase. What's cool with media from Wix is this will give you access to copyright-free images you could use for your site. So for example, if I am someone that wants to showcase like business here on my site, I can take maybe these business graphs, change the background, and just like that, the look and feel changes simply by changing our background here. Okay, so again, this is all for free. And then of course you have video backgrounds. Video background is trending in graphic design. It's a nice way to add some movement to your site. So I'm going to just change our background here to a video. Note that it is static. There is no movement, but once I hit preview here, now you can see some movement happening to your site. Okay, so just a nice way to add a little bit of movement here. All right, so I'm going to change our background to this nice light blue. And I'm going to move along here to our third panel. So this is our add panel. This is where you could add all of the different customizable options that you like, such as image, video, text, button. Okay, like lots of different ways to play around with it. So I do recommend, again, if there's any features you're thinking of adding, definitely add them into the chat box at this time. And again, I'll do my best to cover it. All right, so I'm taking a look at the chat box. So Ada, in terms of Squarespace and Wix, if you're trying to transfer your site from Squarespace to Wix, that is not possible at this time. You would need to redesign it directly on Wix. Sarah also mentioned how to add the IG scroll view to our website. So I can definitely go over how to add Instagram. That's definitely something we could add, and that's here in our fifth panel. And then Sarah's also asking, can you add a podcast episode in my website so people can listen to my podcast? You absolutely can. And I'll go over where you can access that a little bit later. And that's here through our Wix App Market. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And I'll go over that in a few. All right, so let me just exit this. Okay, I think I also see a comment in the Q&A. So Sarah said, if you were inputting fees for services, where could you find this? So again, that's also in the Wix App Market. So I'll go over where you could actually input specific fees if we have some time. But again, you would have to just go through our App Market here and search Wix Bookings, okay? All right, so I'm gonna move along here and go to our ad panel. I'll go over those features in a few minutes. And I'm going to actually start simple for our design here. I'm going to start with a free Wix image. I'm going to just add a nice little graphic design image for our header here. I'll click add to page. Okay, and here we have our first section, just resizing this for our little hero image at the top. And just extending this fully here so it is now full width. Now we have our image. I want to add some text here for our student. Okay, just to add our student's name for their portfolio. And this is Jenna Johnson's portfolio. As you can see, you just have to highlight over here. You can change your text font very easily. I have a font in mind, so I'm going to change it to Equestrial. And of course, I can center it and even change the colors here. Okay, so very easy to kind of customize. Of course, I can go back into our ad panel, add our second heading. And here I'm going to just say she is a graphic designer and illustrator. Okay, again, resizing everything, making sure everything is centered, and then of course, changing the color. Now, oftentimes I hear from students, this takes a bit of time to customize and change the colors around easily. One thing that's also nice is that in Wix, you also have an option here to also save your themes. That just means you can save your text themes. So if I click save theme here, every time I use heading 3, it will always change to Equestrial at that specific font size and color. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so you could definitely use that. Of course, we have here buttons, which I'm going to cover in a few minutes. Here we do have galleries. So if you are someone that wants to showcase multiple images of your work, this is a nice way to do that. Okay, I can also, of course, use this grid gallery here, but note that we have different sliders. We have, of course, grids that you could actually use or different geometric shapes. So lots of options to explore. Okay. And then here I can, of course, resize this. I can click manage media. And now I can delete any images I don't want by clicking our trash can here or by hitting select all and delete. So now I can remove those images. And I can, of course, now upload my own images or go to media from Wix. Okay, and of course, keeping that graphic design theme going, I can, of course, use a few videos here if I'd want. So if I wanted to add a few videos, I can. Okay, so I could add that. Then I can also add images if I'd like. So if I wanted to add images here, I can also do that as well. Okay, so here, just clicking add to page. Now I have my different media. So you can add media by image, video, or text. And of course, move around the location of where it will be on the gallery. All right, so now that it's here, I'm going to actually stretch it to full width just because I think that looks nicer in terms of design. And then of course, when I hit preview here, you have a nice little video that when you hover over, okay, it starts moving. Okay, so again, lots of different options to play around with our galleries too. Okay. In the ad panel as well, thinking about your specific brand, we do have decorative elements, different lines, shapes, arrows, etc. One that I like to call to students' attention is this feature here called vector art. And here you can actually add different features. I'm going to actually search graphic design just to keep that graphic design theme going. And here I can now drag and drop maybe one of these different circles here, make that my little logo. And just note that this is made with SVG files. So that just means that no matter how large or how small I make it, it will always be high quality. So something important to keep in mind, if you do have your own logo, it's really great for you to download it as SVG and upload it as vector art. One thing that's cool with our vector art too is in our paintbrush here, we could actually easily change the color. And that includes if you upload your own SVGs too. Okay, so I'm going to just change our color here. And now I have a nice little logo for my portfolio. And again, in the ad panel, we do have interactive elements, slideshows as well, light boxes that can pop up for the visitor, and also hover boxes. And what makes hover boxes special is this is a nice way to add some interactivity on your site. When you hit preview, it comes in two different states, the regular state and the hover state. So you can see here that this change is now happening just by simply adding a hover box here. Okay, so definitely something nice to add if you want to add some interactivity. And then of course, I'm going to just take us down the list here. We do have some lists and grids. If you want to showcase multiple projects, this is a nice way to do that. We also have video and music as well. So if that's something you want to add, you can definitely add some video and music. Okay. And then one that I know students often ask about is showcasing social media. So let's just actually add our social media bar to our site here. I'm actually going to change the layout by clicking our layout icon here and moving it around. Okay. And sometimes your elements might move around. You can easily select them or group them. Okay. And then just move it on right up. Now here in the social bar, really important, I always remind students to just remember to set your social media links. So of course, in my case, I can just say here, Jenna only has a Twitter and she only has it in LinkedIn. So here you can go to add icons, search LinkedIn, and now add your LinkedIn directly to your site. Very important, remember to always link your icons. Here, this chain icon will let you link to any of these options. And of course, now I can add Jenna, or I'll use mine, professional Twitter, for example's sake. And then when I hit preview here, I can hit Twitter. And then now it takes you directly to my professional Twitter. So again, just keep in mind to just remember to link all of your elements, especially your social media links. And then lastly, of course, I'm just going to go over really quickly buttons. All right. And buttons, again, are a nice way to add a clear CTA or call to action. So if I click change text here, I can make this more actionable, have it say contact me. And then, of course, link it again with this chain icon to any of our options here. In this case, I wanted to go to a specific page. And now I'm going to have this go to the contact page here. So once I hit preview, I can click contact me. And as you can see, we're here direct on the contact page. And then, of course, to close the loop, you want to make sure that you can close the loop on your goal if it's to get someone to reach out to you. In the ad panel, we also have a contact form. And you can, of course, drag and drop that right in. Okay, so that's our nice little contact form here. All right, so definitely explore, look through the platform in the ad panel, especially lots of different options to look through. But I do want to go over one more here in our ad panel just to kind of cover a great feature that you could use to structure your website as well. Okay, so of course, looking at my website here that I created with all of you, I'm going to switch to mobile very quickly. As you can see, the image, the hover box, all of it is kind of all over the place right now. And again, this all has to do with me adding elements straight directly into the site. One feature that I do recommend, which I'm going to do through our about page here in the ad panel, is our feature here called strips. And this is a nice way to structure your website. Okay, when someone kind of enters into your site, you could just drag and drop these sections right in. So for example, I could drag and drop this welcome strip. I can also drag and drop this about strip right below it. And then of course, I can now drag and drop a nice little contact strip here, just for them to contact Jenna. Of course, when I hit preview, as you can see, we have a nice one-page website that's been built strictly with strips. And then of course, I can switch to mobile here. And now you can see it transfers very nicely. So this is a nice feature to use because they are mobilely responsive and definitely something nice to use when you're structuring your site. Okay. Couple of capabilities. One, especially just to keep in mind, is you can, of course, manage your columns here and add additional columns if you wanted to add columns. You can, of course, change your column background by color, image, or video. And then one that I remind students about is that with strips, you can add a nice scroll effect. So if you remember Ivy Chen's site, she actually used strips to actually add those scroll effects. So as you can see, this image is static. There is no movement. But once I actually click this image here and I click our option for background scroll effects, I can go ahead and pick and choose a scroll effect for my site. So I'm going to choose reveal here, for example's sake. And once I hit preview, as you can see, the image is now revealing itself for the visitor. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, this is a nice way to add a professional look to your site, all through strips. Okay, so lastly, of course, I'm going to just go over our Wix App Market. I know that students had questions on this. So our Wix App Market gives you access to all of our online tools, such as the Wix Bookings, Wix Online Stores, and also third-party applications as well, such as Instagram. So I know one student had asked about Instagram and podcasts. So here, as you can see, I can easily search for Instagram here and click Add to Site. And now, as you can see, we now have Instagram directly on this website here. Okay, and I'm actually going to go hit zoom out and reorder just because I want this to actually move down. So, or I could just drag and drop it right in. Okay. All right. And then, of course, I could stretch this to full width. And keep in mind, in my settings, I can now connect my profile and also change some of the displays here. So that's one option. If you're trying to add your Instagram, you could add it through your Wix App Market and, of course, add that. Now, of course, there's a gap here, so I'm going to just fix that. And I'm going to delete this space. All right, so that's just adding our Instagram. If you want to add Wix Bookings, again, very simple. You could also search bookings here. And now you could add Wix Bookings to your site. And this is where I know one student had asked, how can I set the prices? This is where you can actually set the prices. Now, keep in mind that you will need to be a premium user using one of our business plans. All right, so just keep that in mind as well. All right, to accept online payments. Right, so this is where you can kind of set up your prices. All right, and then of course you can go here to manage services and they'll walk you through a process. Is this a one-to-one? Is this a class? Is it multiple participants? So again, definitely take a look on your own. And then lastly, of course, I know one student had a question about podcasts. So I'm going to actually take us to the home page really quickly. And then here in the Wix App Market, if you want to search for podcasts, you can easily search for that. And then now you have the Wix Podcast Player, which you can click Add to Site here. And just like that, you can now add it directly to your site. Okay, and there's a dedicated page for that. So just keep that in mind that, again, if there is something you cannot find here in our ad panel, we do have our Wix App Market, which will give you access to all of our Wix tools and third-party applications as well. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take us back to the home page really quickly. Just take us to the back end of Wix and also publish our site, of course. Just taking a look at our chat box too. So Joella asked, do you get to see a count of people visiting the website? So I will definitely go over where you can actually go through analytics if that's something you're interested in, Joella, in the back end. And then Shirag asked, if I design website from scratch and drag elements, do I need to do mobile optimization manually, or it will be done by Wix Editor itself? So yes, you will have to still do it manually. But like I had mentioned, there are certain tools that you could use so that it transfers off nicely. So like I mentioned, like if we go here to our About page, all right, using strips helps to kind of structure your site on desktop. And then when you go toggle over to mobile, the customization process is a lot lighter compared to if you just dragged and dropped random elements. And secondly, is there any CMS in case I want to come up with a blog? Great question. So if you do want to come up with a blog, we actually have that in our Wix App Market. So you can actually, you don't need to even use a CMS for that. You could just search blog here, and then you have blog options. I'll use the Wix blog in this case, and I'll click add to site. And then you'll see this will just add a few pages. All right, so let's just let that load. Okay, and just like that, now you have a blog directly on your site, and now you can start customizing Shirag. So again, lots of different options to explore here. All right, okay, so let me take a look at the Q&A. So an anonymous attendee asked, I did have a question. Can't we design a website for desktop and let users access an app for mobile users through Wix if possible? So when you say access an app, are you talking about our Wix application, or are you talking about if anyone could just look at your website through the browser? And if you can clarify that, I'd appreciate it. The mobile app. So yeah, you can actually use that. That's for like more business, the business option as well. So if you are someone setting up an online business, you can access that to kind of like connect with customers as well. Okay. Now, Sarah's asking if and when we create the website, questions do arise. Is there a place we could reach out to for support? Absolutely. And I'm going to go over that at the end of this workshop. Okay, Sarah, it's through our Wix Help Center. Okay, and I'll go over that in a couple minutes. All right, so really great questions. You all are like so engaged, and I love the questions coming my way. I really quickly want to just take us to the back end of Wix. You can go to settings, my dashboard here if you want to go to the back end, or you could go to wix.com. So I'm going to go to wix.com here. Now, here in the dashboard, this will give you access to go back into the editor through your site actions. Okay, so you can go back to edit your site. You could even get feedback. Maybe you want someone to take a second look at your website or your portfolio, and lots of options to really explore here. And you can, of course, create as many free Wix sites as you would like. All right, so again, just note with Wix, it is freemium, so you can create as many free Wix sites, and I'll go over free versus premium a little bit later on. On the left-hand side here, we do have a couple tools. So just to answer Joella's question, here you can go into your analytics and reports, and there will of course be a way for you to see a heat map of like the locations where different visitors visit you throughout the world and things like that. One thing that I just want to remind you is, again, this does not have any traffic, of course, because I just created this website, so just keep that in mind. But again, this is where you could access that here under analytics. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take us to marketing and SEO very quickly and just take us through Get Found on Google. All right. Our Wix SEO Wizard. So again, the point of you all creating your portfolio is to all be discoverable by Google. Keep in mind that when you hit start now, Wix will put you through our Wix SEO Wizard and ask you a series of questions on keywords you would like to align to your portfolio website, and give you a step-by-step plan to ensure that you could integrate those keywords to be discoverable by Google. I do recommend, okay, that you definitely go through the process of this once you finalize the design of your site and you upgrade, because again, this is a nice way to just ensure that you can actually be found, connect with recruiters and things like that. Okay, so definitely go through the process of this. It is free, so I do recommend to definitely use it. Okay. All right, so really quickly, I am going to go over the difference between free versus premium. All right, just so you all understand the differences. So this is our lovely site that we created together today. Note that you will have, with a free Wix site, a free Wix domain, which is your email handle .wixsite.com. Everything after this / you can change. You'll also have this banner up here at the top. I always remind students, if you could live with these two things, just stay free forever. But if you do choose, I want to actually upgrade, all right, just note that if you are a premium user, you will have your own domain, such as yourname.com or yourbusiness.com, and you'll have this banner removed up here at the top. All right, so those are the two main differences. Of course, I heard from some students, you're trying to set up like a bookings site and you want to accept online purchases. If you're trying to accept online purchases, you must upgrade to a business premium plan. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay. All right. And why I mentioned this is, again, St. Mary's is a partner of ours. So if you are interested in the premium coupon code, I do recommend to reach out to Teresa or Suraj, excuse me, for either for a coupon code. Again, just note that they will be sharing all of this information in the next few weeks. All right, so do not bombard their emails just yet. Just give them some time because, again, we still need to actually share that your way. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But just in case, you can reach out to them. All right. Also, I'm going to be walking you through the process as well of how to upgrade. All right, just so that you all understand how to actually do it for yourself when you're doing this at home. Okay, so really quickly, if you do want to upgrade your site, just note that in your dashboard, you'll have this purple call to action to upgrade here. Okay, and note that this premium coupon code will cover the website plans for combo or unlimited. Okay, for the combo or unlimited plan. If you are someone that is trying to set up an online store or booking system, this coupon code does not cover that. This really works for the combo or unlimited plan. Okay. Note again, you'll just have to select the code. You must choose yearly for this coupon code to work. And once you hit to continue to checkout here, they'll give you access to enter your promo code. And once you hit apply, it'll go down to 0. Now, very important, I always remind students about this. This does prompt you for your credit card information, and this does auto renew a year after you choose to upgrade. Okay, so I always recommend to students, please set a reminder 1 month prior to your auto renewal date to just make sure that you can make any changes and cancel your premium plan to avoid any incurred charges if you don't want to be charged for the second year. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so I see a few questions coming up. I will answer them in a few minutes. A couple of additional resources. I know one student had asked, if I don't know how to figure something out on Wix, where can I go? So we do have our Wix Help Center. What's really awesome about this is that these are all articles, video walkthroughs that could really put you through the process of helping you with any questions that you may have. You also have access as well to customer support. So if you do have any questions, you can definitely share a callback number and then have someone help you as well. So I do recommend to definitely use this as a resource. It's one of my favorite resources as well. So definitely utilize this, again, as you're starting to build out your portfolio websites. And then, of course, we do have a portfolio website landing page. This will give you access to all of our portfolio templates and also access as well to blog posts about how to better your portfolio. So I do recommend to definitely use it as an additional resource. Okay. All right. So I know I went through tons of information, a lot of information to go through in an hour. I want to use this time to answer any questions that you may have. And just want to make sure I could answer them. So Sarah is saying, what's the difference between adding a blog in the app section and just adding more drop-down menus? So Sarah, just to clarify, are you planning on putting the blog onto the drop-down menu or just adding it directly to the menu? Because you can do either option, really. So if you want to add it as an additional page to your horizontal menu at the top, you absolutely can. But sometimes if, let's say, you want to showcase writing, for example, and you have multiple projects like a blog, maybe essays that you've written, poetry, and maybe you want to actually set it up through a dropdown, that could be another option as well. Okay. And then Sarah, once the 1-year premium plan is up, will I be automatically switched to a free plan and lose the premium plans tools? And can I upgrade to premium later? So Sarah, just to keep in mind, the coupon code does expire on December 31st, 2022. So you do have time to upgrade. You do not need to upgrade just yet. I always remind students, please do not upgrade, the moment you set up an account, because obviously your site's design is not ready. I recommend once the design is ready to go, then upgrade. Regarding, will it switch to a free plan? you have to do that. It's your responsibility on the back end of Wix to ensure that you can actually switch back and cancel your premium plan. Okay. So let me just check our Q&A. I'm also going to stop sharing as well. Okay. So could I just repeat what type of website does the coupon cover? The 1 year free, it is the combo or the unlimited premium plans. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then Rohan asked, like, what content we should mail to get the coupon code. So again, Swaraj and Jerisa are going to be sending you the coupon code, the recording, instructions on how to upgrade, and then of course, this slide deck. So you will be receiving that. So just wait in a couple weeks and they will actually share that all your way. Okay. Any other questions? So Shirag, is there any tablet mode preview apart from mobile and desktop? So Shirag, just as a note, just keep in mind with Wix, you have only desktop and the mobile editor. If you're interested in something a little bit more advanced where you can have access to all screen sizes and resolutions, we do have a product called Editor X, which will give you access to advanced design layouts as well, where you can actually showcase the design in all those different viewports. Okay. And then also in the SEO section, could I change a meta description of the website, and in certain situation, there is HTML code to be inserted into header for website verification. So this can be done in the backend, right? Shirag, I recommend that you can just email me about your question or check the Wix Help Center. I do know that you can actually go directly into the images itself. If that's something you want to add in terms of SEO, you can actually go into images direct and actually be able to customize that. And in terms of SEO, I recommend to go through the Wix Seo Wizard, which can show you how you can actually add those descriptions directly into each of your pages. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And yeah, done in the back end through the Wix Seo Wizard. All right, so Sarah, what is the main difference between the two options offered with the coupon code? So again, really, I try to remind students that, again, you should take a look at our plans, and I'm going to quickly share our screen. They really go through all of the differences, and there's really no perfect solution for everyone. I think everyone should know for themselves what they prefer. Again, we do have the combo and unlimited plans that does cover that coupon code. If you are someone, let's say you're someone that's just using your website for a landing page for your business, like I do think either is really legitimate to use, or if you're using a portfolio and using more images and you need more storage space, then I recommend unlimited. Again, I don't like to say the exact one for you to pick, because again, it's really up to you and what you're planning on using your portfolio for. Okay. Take a look at the rest of the questions here. All right. I think that I went through all of them. Are there any other questions? All right. So in terms of video hours, I can share more information through the Wix Help Center and also like gigabytes. It just means that you will get more storage. And again, I definitely recommend to just take a look through the Wix Help Center in terms of the plans. Okay. All right. All right, so it seems like there aren't any other questions left. All right, thank you all again. Really have a lot of gratitude to St. Mary's and EduNova for inviting me today. And again, my email will be directly on the slide deck regarding coupon codes. Just keep in mind, you could reach out to Jerisa or Swaraj, but they will be emailing you in the next few weeks. So again, just be patient. It does take some time. There are many attendees today. So just keep that in mind as well. And if you do have any additional questions, I do recommend to definitely check our Wix Help Center. That will really give you access to all of those different walkthroughs on how to use Wix or answer some of the questions that maybe if I'm not there or not available, definitely a great resource to use. Okay, so thank you all. Thank you to everybody who attended today.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Joelle. I know there's one more question coming, I think, from an EduNova member, one of our staff members, just about hosting video on a Wix website. Is there any kind of size limitations for actually hosting video right on the site?
Yeah, I could definitely share that your way. The host limitations are all on the Wix Help Center. I never know from the top of my head the exact number. But yeah, I'd be happy to share that into the chat box as well, so you all have access to that. Okay.
Okay, fair enough. So everyone, there's been a lot of questions about whether or not you'll receive the slides and the video for this. And I think Joelle has mentioned it a couple of times. We'll make sure that we get you the video really quickly so that you can have it ready to send out to everyone who participated today. And so thanks to all the students and all the participants, and thank you, Joelle and your Wix team. Huge thank you also to Eugena from St. Mary's for helping arrange all of this, and to the EduNova team. And with that, we bid you adieu. Have a great afternoon. Thanks, everyone.